My name is Alexandra. I am a Ventures Associate on our new materials and packaging as well as sustainability teams. And I am excited to be here with you today to share some more information on the circular economy. So in the circular economy, we see a lot of environmental impacts that are affecting it. And you can see those listed in the middle of this slide. These impacts affect the entire life cycle of materials as well as products. So from resources and manufacturing, distribution, use phase, and of course, disposal. So there are obviously a lot of challenges in this space. I don't need to tell this crowd that, but today we want to focus more on some of the solutions. So with resources, we of course see a lot of new and innovative materials. We can then follow those through using tools like traceability throughout the entire supply chain. And finally, we need to focus on how these materials are actually being disposed of. So that's what we'll take a closer look at today. So this is an overview of the end life of products and materials. So starting at their collection, sorting, and then finally recycling. So we actually see the least amount of funding in the collection space, and that's because a lot of these companies are easier to implement, so there's less demand there. But one of the really exciting trends is plastic credits, and these are a great opportunity for corporations to mitigate their plastic waste. And as Matt mentioned, we'll actually be hearing from Repurpose shortly, so they'll share more information about that and how they're helping. And then we start to see more funding in the sorting space. And so this is where we really see a combination of hardware and software coming together. So this can, of course, be more capital intensive, so that will require some more funding for these startups. And some of the exciting trends are AI and machine learning, which can help to identify and separate the materials, which in turn enables more pure recyclates. And finally, we see the most funding in the recycling space, specifically chemical recycling. Some of the exciting trends here are waste to value as well as closed loop, and we'll dive into this space a little bit more now. And sorry, to go back, so this is a region analysis of the disposal end life sector. So again, from right to left, you see collection through recycling. And each bar represents the number of startups distributed as well as the regions that they're in. So waste collection and mechanical recycling, we see a really even distribution of the startups working in all different regions. And you can see in waste collection, the most startups actually come from Southeast Asia. And that's because that's where a lot of our waste ends up. And so they see the problem firsthand and are more motivated to develop solutions for it. Africa also has a big presence with waste collection, and these are mainly independent waste collectors due to lack of infrastructure. They need to help out a little bit more there. Mechanical recycling, that even distribution, is ultimately due to the processes being implemented at those sites where the wastes are. And then in the traceability, waste sorting, and chemical recycling spaces, we see the biggest presence in Europe, North America, as well as China. And that's due to not only consumer demand, but also more opportunities for funding and grants through government regulation. And finally, we'll look at the end products that are being produced from the recycling market. So we see the most startups in the mechanical recycling space, but actually so there's about double the startups there as there is in chemical recycling, but only half the amount of funding. And that's because most of these mechanical recycling products are actually being downcycled. So they're creating end products that are physically grinded and then used of mixed plastic, and this can cause some degradation of those mechanical properties. Chemical recycling, we see more separation. So some of the main end markets are fuels, raw materials, and specifically polymers and monomers. And then the most exciting space is biological recycling. And this is a really new space. A lot of the startups are still at the lab phase. For a while, the end products were actually unknown, and now they're initially starting to see that they can break it down to some of the constituent molecules. And yeah, you'll see there are the least number of startups here, but they actually, in terms of amount raised per startup, they outgrow mechanical recycling.